Hi boys and girls, welcome to Everyday Math Lesson 5.4, Exploring Polygons. The materials that you'll need today, notebook paper, pencil, your math journal, the 5.4 pattern block template shapes paper that looks like this. If you don't have this paper today, that's okay. You could draw these shapes in your notebook or on a whiteboard, and then also you're going to need to have your template. Let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is go over our math boxes from the previous lesson. So if you can open up your math journal to page 119. If you're noticing that you have any mistakes, please fix those with your pencil and eraser. For question number 1, use the digits 1, 3, and 5 to make the smallest number possible. So you should have made 135, and then the largest number possible. You should have made 531. For question 2, on which day did Ms. Forby's class have the most recess minutes? And looking at my tally chart, I can see that Thursday had the most tallies. So Thursday would be my answer for number 2. For question number 3, how many blocks in all? I can see that I have 2 flats, which is going to stand for 2 in my hundreds place. I can see I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 longs, which is going to stand for 60 in my tens place. And then I have 4 cubes, which stands for 4 ones, giving me the number 264. For question 4, complete the number grid. So they gave us the number 565. I know 1 less would be 564, then 563. Then going up, I am going by 10 less. So then I have 553, 543. Going back to 565, 1 more would bring me to 566. 10 less would be 556, and then 546. For question 5, draw a square and make each side 3 centimeters long. So if you want to use your ruler or your template and make sure you're on the centimeter side, I'm going to line up my 0, and then I can see that my line is 3 centimeters long. I'll just check one more side just to make sure it's a square. And I can line up my 0, and I can see, yes, that I have my 3 centimeters. So if you want to double check yours to make sure your square is 3 centimeters long. For question 6, graph this data. On Tuesday, it was 20 degrees Celsius. You can see on Tuesday, I brought my bar up to 20. On Wednesday, it was 35 degrees Celsius. And on Thursday, it was 30 degrees Celsius. So yours should match something like mine. All right, if you can double check to make sure you have your page correct, and again, fix any mistakes with your pencil and eraser before moving on. The next part of our lesson, it will use either notebook paper or a whiteboard and marker if available. If the speed is ever too fast, please pause as often as needed. So boys and girls, I'm going to say a number like the number 90, and I want you to write down how many more to go from 90 to 100. And so you would say 10. So now let's do the same thing. If I say 40, can you write down how many more to get to 100? And you should have said 60. If I say 70, how many more to get to 100? You should have said 30. Let's try 3 more. So this time, can you think of how much more to get to 100? Press pause and then we'll check. So if I say 50, it would take 50 more to get to 100. If I say 75, it would take 25 more to get to 100. If I say 25, it would take 75 to get to 100. Let's try 3 more. So this time we have the numbers 95, 45, and 65. Can you write down how many more it would take to get to 100 for each of those 3? Press pause and then play to check. So if you're starting at 95, it would take 5 more to get to 100. If you're at 45, I know 5 more would bring me to 50, and then another 50 would bring me to 100. So 50 plus 5 is 55. If I'm at 65, I know 5 more would bring me to 70, and then 70 plus 30 would bring me to 100. So 5 plus 30 is 35. The next part of our lesson, we're going to be talking about polygons. So what is a polygon? And for this slide, you can just listen as I explain. So a polygon is another name for a shape, but this is what the shape has to have. It has to have straight sides. So notice how all the shapes at the bottom have straight line segments connecting or straight sides. The polygons have 3 or more sides and angles. The polygons are closed, so you don't see any openings. And the polygons do not have lines that cross. Okay, so kind of keep that in mind. These are some examples of some polygons. So now on your whiteboard or in your notebook, I'm going to ask you to draw one polygon for each of these 3 ideas. So can you draw one polygon that has 3 sides, 3 angles, one that has 4 sides and angles, and one that has 5 or more sides or angles? Press pause and then play when you're ready to check. All right, second graders, so 3 sides, you probably have some type of triangle that maybe looks like one of the 2 triangles that I have. For 4 sides, you maybe have a square or you maybe have a rectangle. There's other 4-sided figures you could have picked also. For 5 or more, so I just did 2 different ones that have 5 sides. One of them would be a regular pentagon, because notice how all 5 of my sides and angles are the same. And then I have another 5-sided figure that looks a little bit different, but it still would be considered a polygon because it still follows those rules of having straight line segments, it's closed, and it has 3 or more. So now for the next thing, we will put our whiteboard to the side and we're going to first just talk a little bit about Math Journal page 120 before we get into our practice. So if you can open up your Math Journal to look at page 120. So as we're talking about the top part, so triangles, what do you notice about these pictures? How many sides do each of them have? And you should have said they each have 3 sides. If you want to write 3 sides in that box, you can, or the number 3, so you know how many sides match our triangles. And then what about quadrangles or quadrilaterals? How many sides do they have to have? You should have said 4. And again, you can write 4 if you'd like. How about pentagons? How many sides do they have? You should have said 5. How about hexagons? How many sides? You should have said 6. What about heptagons? We haven't talked much about this one, but how many sides do you see, or what pattern do you notice? You should have said 7 sides. And then what about octagons? Yes, you should have said 8 sides. So then, boys and girls, notice how these are not polygons. A circle is not a polygon. Look at this one. It's almost a triangle, but it has an opening, so it's not a polygon. This one, the lines cross. They intersect. It's not a polygon. This one has a curve, so it does not fit. This one, it's almost like 2 separate shapes. Same thing here with this line in the middle. If it didn't have this line in the middle, it could be a polygon. Our lines we have some extra on the side here. If we didn't have these end parts, it could be a polygon. And then this is not a closed shape. So these are some things that are not polygons. We're going to talk more about polygons in future lessons, but the last thing we'll do before math boxes is we're going to use that 5.4 pattern block template sheet. And what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to use your template to trace each of these shapes. So I'll read the name of the shape to you, and then I'm going to ask that you press pause to draw them, and then play when you're ready to check. So the first one says square, large triangle, small hexagon, trapezoid, small triangle, wide rhombus. And if you're unsure what a rhombus is, double check on your template. They do name each of the shapes on there. Large circle, narrow rhombus, and large hexagon. So press pause and then play when you're ready to check. All right, second graders, so your square probably looks something like this, and again, you should have used your template to trace them. The large triangle probably looks something like this. So notice how there's two different hexagons on our template, so you did the small hexagon. Our trapezoid, so they, in this picture, kind of have it flipped, but I chose to do it this way. Either way is fine. Then we have the small triangle. So our rhombus, there's two different ones. So the first one we wanted to do was that wide rhombus. Then we have our large circle. Here's our narrow rhombus. You could have done it either way. I chose to do it going up and down. And then last, our large hexagon. So double check to make sure you have your shapes correct and fix any with your pencil and eraser. You can just put this page to the side, and the last thing we'll talk about are math boxes. So I'm going to ask that you listen to the directions, then complete this all on your own. When you're done, take a picture and add it to Seesaw, and we'll go over this page in our next video. So for question 1, fill in the missing numbers following our rule. For number 2, how many patients did Dr. Rio see on Tuesday? Question 3, write 5 even numbers greater than 50. Solve for number 4 and then tell me the turnaround fact. For number 5, draw the hands to show 6:45 and then tell me what time that would be a half hour earlier. And then for question 6, there's 35 butterflies, 10 flew away. How many butterflies are left? Notice how they filled in part of the diagram for you, so you just need to solve and write down the number model. All right, I will see you next time.